Welcome back, everybody, to the Eternal Tournament Series World Championship Top 8. We are going into the winners bracket quarters, semifinals. Actually, we have V-Series versus Unearthly here on TJP versus Argenport. This is going to be a cool matchup. In the booth, I am Gabe, also known as Calimdir, and I'm joined by aReNGee, the man himself.
Yeah, should be a good match. We just watched a TJP mirror, and this is the other TJP deck that we still have in top 8. I believe we had 3 of those. So it will be facing off in a non-mirror against Argenport. I know we've gone over these deck lists a time or two. Who do you feel is favored in this matchup? And do we have a historic record? I think we have a historic record.
Traditionally, TJP would be favored because that was what the deck was made for in the time of the Cow Kingdom when it was just nothing but Argenport. However, this Argenport deck is a little bit different. This Argenport deck has main deck Sabotage, which I think is a huge addition to the deck. It also doesn't rely as much on it doesn't provide as many opportunities for getting 2-for-1. It doesn't rely as much on weapons. So I think it's a little more even. And I actually am potentially favoring the Argenport deck just because they're both similar on the curve, and the Argenport deck has a little better interaction.
Well, historically, Unearthly in this tournament has gone 4-1 against the TJP decks, so he's been doing quite well for himself there. And here we see a turn 1 Sabotage, cut that TJP deck off of power, take away its Seek power. Unfortunately, Sirius immediately draws the Seek power again, so the Sabotage ultimately a little bit less useful than it could have been.
Yeah, and Unearthly just on all power now, which is going to be pretty bad. He does have a second Sabotage. But I think he's probably just going to play this Interrogator. Oh, no.
Yeah.
And that's going to snipe out that Vanquish. And he spots... he doesn't know about the Valkyrie Enforcer, but...
Interesting that he went for the first Seek power, but not the second one. And now Sirius is going to be able to deploy his hand, whereas if you cut him off that second Seek power, obviously Unearthly doesn't know this, but
yeah,
Sirius's hand would have stalled a fair bit.
Oh yeah, he would have had nothing really. He wouldn't have been able to cast anything other than this other Kothon.
So maybe Unearthly will draw a third Sabotage. A turn too late, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, just draws power, and the Argenport deck is starting to flood a little bit, which is a lot easier to do when your curve stops at 5 and you don't have the 6 power and 8 power, ultimate abilities that Sirius's deck has.
So while the Titans are pretty threatening, he can't play them yet. He's got to wait till next turn, and he's got to decide if he wants Valkyrie Enforcer or Titan. He wants the Titan because he's got 2, and it's the more powerful card. But taking out that Vanquish with Sabotage does let this Interrogator attack in here if Unearthly so chooses. And he can even equip it with this Gem Blade.
Yeah, Unearthly is going to be able to... He's going to have to equip something. Maybe he just goes for the Interrogator because he needs cards since he's mostly out of gas. I feel like that's what he's going to do here.
Yeah. That's actually going to end up being pretty good. Had Sirius been able to play this Enforcer, then Unearthly would just be basically cycling the Gem Blade. But if Sirius doesn't draw a Justice for a while, Unearthly might get quite a few cards out of this Interrogator. Here comes a Crystallize. He does have the influence for that. Not the power, yes. but still, that's pretty big.
So Unearthly, with a few more cards in hand, draws himself a Tavrod. That's a pretty good guy. Not bad against Crystallize.
So Tavrod is really interesting in this build of Argenport because it doesn't actually have very many hits. It just has the Interrogator and the Bloodletter. There's no Rune Hammers. And there are still some Emerald Monuments that it can hit with the Gem Blade. But
yes, it does have the Gem Blades too.
But yeah, it's a lot less consistent than some of the other the old Argenport builds or Armory. But that's fine. You don't really need it to hit every time. The threat of Tavrod is one of the biggest things. and it just generally being an endurance unit is huge against Crystallize.
Yeah, Unearthly is really riding these interrogators. He's gone from no hand to lots of stuff or lots of cards. But this Falcon
Yeah.
Forcer will put it on hold a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty beefy board. He's got to make a decision. What does he want to silence? And he silences the Tavrod, which I don't think is correct because Tavrod's can't really attack and isn't really guaranteed card advantage. But that's just the threat. How scary Tavrod can be.
I think
But it also
it's
makes
less about
Crystallize.
the.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're about to say it. Go ahead.
No. You were correct. Yeah, it's more, I think, what you were going to say, which is that it opens up Unearthly to Crystallize because now he doesn't have any endurance units on the board.
Sarius to be crystallized, yeah. Sarius is focusing less on battling this Argenport deck in terms of card advantage and focusing more on killing the guy, I think, is his particular strategy in
killing
this
the guy
situation.
usually wins the game.
Because that's easily two-turn lethal, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Crystallize here is actually huge because Unearthly's going to be taking a damage from this Interrogator. He's going to be taking 10 from or 12 from the board, and then with this Obelisk, that's definitely two-turn lethal. Doesn't can even afford to lose some units along the way.
How cute is Unearthly trying to get here? Okay, yeah, the Varus favorite does go on the 2-1. I was wondering if he was going to try like an attack and then a post-combat Varus favor to snipe a unit, but no, it just goes for it.
Yeah, so I think this Crystallize has to come down, right?
You can activate Kothon or play Obelisk if you want to get fancy, but I think just Crystallize push is better.
Yeah, I think when your opponent's drawing 2 cards a turn, you can't, or 3 cards a turn, you can't afford to play like that.
Argenport doesn't have any multi-target stuff, so he needs this Slay to come down, and it does. But Obelisk is lethal after the Instigator damage, so Unearthly needs another card. That Gemblade is not it. So Sarius will play Obelisk and win quite handily. Second Crystallize locks it up.
Yep. And that's going to be the first game going to Sarius. Unearthly going down game 1 here. It was actually a pretty close game there with that Bloodletter as that draw for Unearthly there. I mean, obviously, Sarius had the second Crystallize, but we can see how this Argenport deck can compete. There was just so much card advantage from those Interrogators. And there were a lot of units that needed to be answered by Sarius there to be able to.
Yeah, and the players are hopping right back into it. So Sarius, they're going for a more aggressive strategy. Here, once again, the power going to be a little bit slow developing, but Argenport, unless it rolls like 2, 3, 4, doesn't usually put you under insurmountable pressure. You have time to react to it, and unless they're slamming a weapon on a 2-drop and really committing that you don't have a Vanquish, you can take a bit of damage. It's another deck that doesn't have any reach.
Yeah, the Argenport deck that you're talking about, Unearthly, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the Instigator is really the only reach it has. Now that Bart isn't really in the deck, it's a lot harder to get in damage, to sneak any damage in. You do have some evasive threats in Tinker Overseer and Valkyrie Enforcer, but that's about it.
And here's that Tinker Overseer now. The TJP deck shows that if it draws the correct stuff, it can have perfect power. Sarius will have access to all of his colors, and we'll be able to play out his entire hand in short order. Yeah. Unearthly playing the depleted monument, setting up for an impending doom.
Yeah, I mentioned Tinker Overseer and Valkyrie Enforcer, and then Unearthly draws the other flying threat impending doom, but
But it's only 2 damage, and a deck with Crystallize is pretty good at racing. So Unearthly can't be feeling too comfortable just yet.
I think Unearthly's actually in a pretty good position here. Sure, he gets to play Awakened Student and Desert Marshal here, but this Impending Doom is going to trade with either Seraph or Awakened Student. Unearthly's going to be able to slay the other unit, or actually, Unearthly's going to slay right now. No trade is going to be had. If Sarius wants to trade for this Impending Doom, he's going to lose 2 units, and that's 2 Instigator triggers, so he'd be taking 7. So this is just he might just silence Tinker Overseer and eat it. I'm
and
not
then
sure.
and then double trade. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another potential line that he could go for.
Okay,
This,
so he does. Oh, wow! And he just
what?
takes all the damage. Okay.
That's interesting.
Well, okay. The reason I see for doing that is that maybe he can have a 4/4 student next turn and not just lose the and have better blocks. But yeah, I think he's just
That
taking
didn't
a little
play
too
too
much
well
damage.
into the
Varus.
Vera's favor. Yeah.
Yep.
And Obelisk. Okay, so he
Yeah.
can trade with the 5/5 now, but that puts him to 2.
Yeah, that was a sequencing error on Saris's part. If he was gonna not, he should have known whether he was gonna block or not before he went into that, so that he could play
Oh,
Desert Marshal end of turn if he had to. But he's just dead now
yeah,
with
to
that
top
finest
deck
hour.
Finest Hour from Unearthly. So we say the deck doesn't have any reach, but it does have some surprise damage from those Vera's
Yeah.
favors and pump spells. So
So
that
that's a
will
quick
be
back and forth there with the 1/1 from both players.
yes. So looking now at the decks. Oh, actually, never mind. We have a match result and an absolutely crushing one. Kamado has swept Toth in a very fast 3-0,
Oh my
sending
goodness.
himself into the winners finals. Kamado, of course, was our top player coming out of the original round robin, and he continues his dominance here. Toth will be falling down to the lower bracket to face Moosh. Okay, so an ET player there, but sorry about that. Let's look at the deck list quickly, because I know the players are itching to get back into the match. And
Yeah,
already are.
and
Never mind.
yeah, they're right back in there. I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about it later, but Kamado being a consistent deck innovator and always showing up with cool stuff, so I'm excited to talk about that as when we get to it later.
Of course, this is another very high-profile match between two big players, and it turns into just sort of a post sideboard best of 3. Both players split the first pre-board matches, which, with players this caliber happens a fair amount. We're seeing. Here, Unearthly, once again leading out on an Instigator. He's got a lot of removal to back it up.
Yeah, I like this hand. I like he has to protect, and then he's got a Bloodletter, so that could carry him pretty far. He does have to worry about the island's choice though.
Interesting that he didn't go for the attack there, but I guess he doesn't really want to trade 3 for 4 if Ceres just ignores it.
But this Obelisk is going to be a huge pain now for Unearthly because now he's really behind in the race, and then Ceres even has another threat to deploy after this. So
Interesting that he decided to hold on to his Annihilate there when he's sitting on 2 Slays in hand. I don't know that you're going to have time to deploy all these cards, at least at this point. So I would have leaned towards killing the 3/2 there, but
he
instead
goes for
protects.
protect. Okay.
Interesting. Probably going to play a Bloodletter on it then. Yeah. All right. So he's looking to show the TJP deck some of its own medicine and go for the racing plan.
But here comes a Titan, and he can also next turn potentially play Enforcer and hold up Island's Choice to pop that Aegis.
Yeah. If Unearthly does not draw power, though, he's going to be pretty much, well, not pretty much locked, but will likely need to spend his whole turn just killing the Titan. And
Yeah,
he
which
draws
is
a Tinker
okay.
Overseer, so could deploy another threat if he wanted to.
Yeah, that's actually not bad for Unearthly. This race is almost in his favor. But he goes for the Slay. I think that's because so he wants to take out that Kothon because
Before it can ult.
even if he kills the Titan, that means he can't block the Kothon anymore, and he's still going to be losing that race.
Mm-hmm. So now Ceres.
Go ahead.
Ceres has that Island's Choice up now that you were talking about, which limits Unearthly's options a bit in terms of attacking, but obviously with that Titan in play, he's not too enthusiastic about attacking anyways.
Yeah, I think Unearthly's line of killing Kothon and dealing with that goes to show like he's thinking about this game in terms of he's going to be able to play through his whole hand, and there might be even a couple turns of top decking, and so whoever is in the best board position at the end of top decking will probably win, or once you get into that top decking position, it's not that fast of a race where he needs to just be getting in the most damage possible every turn.
Yeah, since his power is somewhat constrained and he's not able to play out his hand quickly, he's trying to extend the game a little bit here. Trying to bait out a double block here with the Annihilate, I imagine, but I think it's just going to get Islands choiced.
Yeah, that's going to be what happens here. And Unearthly now in a really, really compromised position here because he's facing down 2-turn lethal.
Wow, this Annihilate is going to make it a little bit more extended.
Yeah. But now that's 8 power right there. So that's going to be a 4-attack Amber Acolyte and a 3-attack Initiative stance. So this is still quite a bit of damage. 1 off lethal next turn.
So do you go for the Slay or do you go for the just Volcon Initiate?
Yeah, you might have to Valkyrie Enforce and Initiate just to stay alive, get down a blocker, and that's what Unearthly goes for. But that makes you dead to a lot of draws.
Kothon, not one that kills you, but not one that you really want to see.
Yeah,
He does have the Slay, though.
Well.
So I think you just trade this off here, yeah.
Ooh.
Not trading is quite an aggressive choice, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Not trading is really interesting because he's thinking maybe he can block with Tinker Overseer, but that's really hoping Sirius doesn't draw power, doesn't draw really anything. So it's risky, but Unearthly is in such a dangerous position that he might have to take those risks. And he just trades it now for some. Okay, all right, that's fine.
He can't not block and fall to 2.
Yeah,
he just dies. Well, we're on the Slay train, and Unearthly has yet to draw that power that he needs, but he might just squeak through this if Sirius doesn't draw his power.
Interrogator, not really the best when you're at 3, so he's going to probably not have that active.
I think that cleans it up for Sirius, though. I don't know that Unearthly can put out enough blockers to deal with this scouting party.
Yeah, Tavrod will do his best, but it's not going to be enough. And there's a Vanquish anyway.
Yeah.
Even without the Vanquish, it was lethal, but, you know.
So, Sirius will take game 3. Unearthly, once again, we see a player stuck on 4 for just a little bit too long.
So I'm just trying to look and see what cards have been brought in the sideboard. I would imagine some amount of Permafrost, maybe from Sirius, just because it hits everything except for Tavrod, but I didn't see any there. And I guess Vanquish is already maybe good enough, and maybe he doesn't want that much removal. So I'm not sure what was brought in, because I don't think this is really the matchup for... I don't know if this is the matchup for Runehammer. It might be. If TJP is the matchup for Runehammer, then maybe Argenport is as well, because they're similar in curve.
The biggest thing that Unearthly usually brings in to switch up matchups is he sides an Oathbook and then becomes more of an aggressive deck, but I don't think he's done that here. It doesn't look like he's gone for that kind of strategy.
It's a bit slow, especially against a deck that has cards like Island's Choice and Vanquish. Buffing your units isn't always the greatest idea.
Mm-hmm. And his trouble is usually Unearthly can't go wide enough to match units with the TJP deck.
Yeah.
Unearthly's hand this match looks not great. And
this could be This could be the end of his winner's bracket run, but if he comes down here, he will move to the loser's bracket and still have a chance.
Well, he's got lots of power, so he can play anything he draws. Interesting that the finest hours are still in after board. I would have expected those to be swapped out a little bit when you're considering stuff like Island's Choice.
Well, I actually don't hate finest hour because I think Unearthly's thinking about this as an aggressive matchup, 2 early game decks facing off, and in that scenario, 1 power plays are really important. And it just can deal with a lot of the cards that Sirius plays. That Valkyrie Enforcer is very timely.
Yeah, it's going to slow down a lot of the bleeding. Let Unearthly hold on to his Vanquish for a higher priority threat. He keeps not trading, which
I think he needs to be trading. But the other thing is that Sirius potentially has a better late game than Unearthly just because of parties and
Stuff like
obelisks.
we saw with the obelisks and scouting parties, yeah.
Yeah, so Unearthly really needs to be the aggressor in this matchup, which is kind of awkward because he hasn't been able to.
He's also trying to bait out trades, I think, with his finest hour and his protects. He feels like he can ride, a few units to victory. If he can get something suited up in this with this particular hand with double protect, he should be able to keep it alive.
Yeah.
And now Sirius needs to decide what he prioritizes. If he wants to, put down, Vanquish plus something else. If he wants to just play Titan, Obelisk and Slam. Obelisk and Slam is what he goes for.
Welcome to the jam.
Well, here,
yeah, this is a lot of damage.
but here's the finest hour play, defensive finest hour,
right?
Which is a little bit interesting. It's a shame because it doesn't draw Unearthly a card, but now he can go like Vanquish and then just push damage, or just
and it made Unearthly feel a lot better about it because Sirius had to tap out for that, so he didn't feel bad, going down protect. Sirius wasn't able to use his Vanquish, and now Sirius has to decide what he wants to play, if he wants to use this Vanquish or not. He's just going to go in for an attack and then maybe play his Titan, I think.
I think Titan and then Initiate would be my guess.
Yeah. Okay, Kothon Initiate?
Kothon Initiate, Vank. Okay, so that sets you up for a Kothon ultimate next turn and gives you a good ground blocker this turn. So maybe that's a little bit, maybe that's a lot better than the Sandstorm Titan line that I suggested.
Yeah. But there's the Protect and Unearthly's been holding on to, and he's still got another one. So this didn't put out as many threats, or this put out more threats than Sandstorm Titan. Not as big of a body, but I think you don't really care that much about Sandstorm Titan since you are probably winning the aerial battle.
In the air, yeah.
So
it does play around both Annihilate and Vanquish, though, which is exactly what Unearthly has.
Yeah, exactly. Can still take out the Valkyrie Enforcer however he wants, if that's the case.
Do you like Annihilate this Initiative Sands to keep Kothon from ulting? Is that where you are?
I definitely vanquished the Valkyrie Enforcer for racing purposes. Okay, so he doesn't, which I think ends up being correct because if Sirius spends his whole turn to make this owl, you can just annihilate the owl.
Mm-hmm. He'll still have 2 blockers though, so it'll really come down to what Unearthly draws if he can find like a Slay or something. Otherwise, he can only attack with the 4/3, and he's not winning the race at all. Yeah, that's not a good sign for Unearthly. It's a very good sign for Sirius, seeing only 1 unit come in.
Yeah, second protect from Unearthly, or third really.
Wow, he's blocking.
Well, that's what Unearthly wanted to see, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah.
But here comes the Titan, and we've got an active obelisk now. So this everything Sirius draws from this point on is gonna be powerful, and Unearthly's already having enough trouble just dealing with the board as it is.
I'm pretty surprised Unearthly blocked there. I thought he had a no block thing going on, but he drew a second protect, so he's just super protect flooded, and needs to draw some gas. Impending Doom.
That actually blocks.
Not that good into Titan though.
Right, but it stops him from dying to Titan immediately.
They can't trade after this power comes down, unfortunately.
Oh, right, because we
so
went back
he
down
needs to just jump.
7. Yeah.
Man, this is the point where you want to protect your own face to stop taking Impending Doom damage before remembering that it's your own unit and that doesn't work. How much is Sirius playing around Finest Hour here, though? With the block with Kothon and this potential non-attack here, I feel like he's convinced himself that Unearthly has, or rather, Unearthly has convinced him that he has Finest Hour, and Sirius is now playing around that and giving Unearthly time. So this is a great bluff from Unearthly.
Well, here comes Obelisk.
Well, that'll help you play around Finest Hour. But it did buy Unearthly a turn.
Yeah. That's the value of being able to play Protect and Finest Hour in the same deck, because you just never know what your opponent just never knows what you have.
So is that a
And
slay?
then,
That is a slay.
oh
And that's a
wow,
1-turn clock for Unearthly.
Unearthly might steal this now. Holy cow!
If Sirius
And
misses,
that's
and he
it. Wow.
does.
So that's 2-2, right?
Yeah, that
Unearthly
brings it back.
staying alive here in the top 6, but in the semifinals for the winners bracket.
So Sirius playing around the Phantom Finest Hour ended up costing him. Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Here we see players get, playing a little bit too deep on what players can have, not keeping them honest, forcing them to have it, and just the conservative line ended up being, it ended up costing him there.
Yeah. Unearthly, the master of mind games. I mean, I'm sure he knows about all that with Ricano, where you get to add Torch to that mix. And
Yeah.
just
It takes quite a player to turn these 2 blank protects into something that ends up winning you the game.
Yeah, I'll say. But now Unearthly gonna have to redraw that hand. No good at all. And we have the classic Double Justice Seek Power from Sirius. So he's only gonna be able to choose 1 influence. 2 of 3 here.
Gets the time though for that
yeah.
Initiate of the Sands.
Yeah. Unearthly, though, has a pretty solid hand. 2/2 drops and a 3-drop to develop into, and then Tavrod. Doesn't have a lot of interaction, just has threats, but against the TJP deck, that might be where you want to be.
Bloodletter can help him find threats if he puts it on an Interrogator and that Interrogator lives.
Yeah.
Sirius draws some more time and justice, and Kothon and Scouting Party are a little bit stranded at the moment, but Vulcan Forcer will do a nice job of preventing the Instigator from getting too out of control.
Yep. Unearthly being on the draw here, making a pretty big difference because his aggressive start feels a lot less aggressive. This is a pretty the Initiate helping here, allowing him Sirius to Vanquish and Seraph here in the same turn, and then get in for 3 safely. He might not Vanquish, though. He might be waiting for something like a Tavrod, which is looming, as we've seen, or trying to get a 2-for-1 with a Bloodletter. Yeah, and Unearthly is going to take this opportunity because he knows that Island's Choice, there's no Primal, and we're only at 2 power, so going to take this opportunity to play Bloodletter. It's the most aggressive line, and it replaces itself, so it's just a solid play. Going to still die to this Vanquish, but not going to feel too bad about it as opposed to how it could have been. And now if he draws a power at any point, he's going to play this Tavrod.
Yeah, he got a 14 health swing, so that's not bad for something that replaced itself and then your opponent drew a card. Unearthly gonna just have to slay here, push in for some damage. It's pretty easy to start the race when your opponent's at 15 and you're at 30.
Okay, so there is a Permafrost, which I was hoping to see from Sirius because it's just such a tempo efficient removal spell in this matchup, and that is tempo is a big deal in this matchup.
You can cast it, which Sirius currently stuck on Primal.
Yeah, that's the he cannot cast any of the cards in his hand. So now Unearthly still doesn't have 5 power, but he can play his Tinker Overseer, and he has another Interrogator. So I don't know how Sirius is going to get back into this. Like, even if he draws power, he can, well, if he were to draw a Primal Influence, he does play a Scouting Party and Permafrost or Kothon and Permafrost, which is a pretty big deal.
But he's running out of turns, because you can, like, Bloodletter the 2-drop here if you wanted to. Doesn't want to.
Oh my god, he takes all the damage.
I think you have to double block there, yeah.
Wow. So now he's just dead. Let's see. Okay, no, because there's 3 blockers.
He's not just dead, no.
Yeah, Unearthly does get to play a Bloodletter here, though, which is pretty big. So that means that Sirius is going to be chumping with at least 2 units, and Unearthly is going to have at least 2 threats left after this attack.
So do you just, like, Bloodletter your Instigator again? Or not Instigator, sorry, your Interrogator. The names are very similar. And then attack with your 3/3 and your 7/6?
That's what I go for,
5/5 to diversify.
Yeah. It also makes blocks a lot harder for Sirius.
Mm-hmm. Better at killing him here.
Oh, man, and he goes to 1.
Draws a vanquish, not enough.
That doesn't do it.
Whew, so Unearthly's going to take it despite being
Unearthly.
nearly dead. It looks like the key part of this match was when he played that defensive Finest Hour early in Game 4 and put it in Sarius's head that Finest Hour was, a card that Unearthly was still playing postboard, which I know we didn't necessarily expect too much. And, let Unearthly come back in that Game 4 and then just TJP things. Had to seek power on 2, chose the Justice, did not find the Primal.
Yeah, wow. And now the winners final is Kamado versus Unearthly. The old weekly god versus the new weekly god come to face each other in a battle of titans in the winners final. That's going to be really exciting. But in the losers bracket, we do have Sirius now getting bumped down to face Serino, and then we saw Toth lose to Kamado, who will be facing Moosh in, I believe, another mirror. No, Toth is on Praxis, right?
Yes, Toth is playing basic Praxis, and he's facing off against TJP's Moosh in losers bracket. I'm not sure quite which match we're jumping to next. It says number 10, so we will be following Sirius to play against Serino, I believe, down in losers bracket round 2. So Sirius, after that heartbreaker of a loss, is going to have to pull himself up and defend himself in an elimination round. So we'll see if he has the mental fortitude to do that against Serino, who had a pretty handy victory in his losers bracket round 1 and a very close loss in winners bracket. So he should be feeling pretty good about this one. So we will be back with that in just a moment. We're just getting those players ready to go, and we will be back with the match as soon as it's ready to begin.